Welcome back to Joy in Our Town. I'm your host, Vijoya Chappelear. Well, election time is almost upon us once again. So today we're going to meet one of the candidates for New York City's public advocate, Mr. James Lane. Thank you for being here. And before we begin, just to remind you that since today's program is about electoral affairs, in compliance with regulations, WTBY does not endorse a particular candidate. Well, welcome, James. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, okay, public advocate. It's not a position we hear a lot about. Tell us a little bit more about what that position is.
Well, it's an interesting position because it was created back in 1993, so 20 years ago. And originally it used to be called the president of the city council, which was more of like a ceremonial position that was the head of the city council, but never really had any voting power. And so a lot of people said, well, this doesn't really make a lot of sense. So they renamed it to public advocate. So now it actually had more power, because now you could actually represent the public. If there's any issues that people are having in the community as far as like improper disposal or health issues or concerns with the city agencies not really doing the best things for them, they could come to the public advocate as a place to help resolve those issues. It's kind of like your public defender in a way. So if the city's doing you badly, you go to your public defender or your public advocate and you work with them to actually push through some legislations in a lot of cases.
So we can try to get some results.
Exactly. And in the first public advocate we had was Mark Green. And he was, I thought, pretty great at it because he was out there all the time on picket lines and everything, fighting for workers' rights, fighting for a lot of issues that affect people of the city. And over the last 20 years, the department has been defunded and destaffed because I guess when they created it, they didn't realize, oh, this position actually does have a lot of power, so we don't want them to have too much power, it feels like. So that's why I'm running to sort of awaken, the need of this office and to let people realize that it actually has a lot more power than, unfortunately, a lot of people in the media are representing right now.
Okay, so we really want to work for the citizens of New York City, and this is a position that really could get some things done, it sounds like.
Exactly.
Okay, well, now you're also the first candidate running on the Green Party ticket. So
Yes.
Tell us about this. Now, you mentioned Mark Green. Is that where, certainly that's not where, that's a nice coincidence, right?
Yeah, I know, it's really funny.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's more environmental than anything.
It's like bands, like when people are named in bands, they all have like the band last name, like Joey Ramone and Johnny Ramone, and James Green.
Happy coincidence here. So.
Exactly, it's total coincidence. Well, the Green Party is a global party, first of all. It started in Germany, like in the 1970, 1980, I believe. And currently, we have 90 countries that have Green parties in them. And some of them have, like, coalitions, like back when Jesse Jackson was forming the Rainbow Coalition. They actually formed with the Green Party, and now they have a Rainbow Green Coalition. So it just shows you that there is a need for green concerns. In New York State, well, across the whole country, across the U.S., we have the largest number of elected officials in California. California has a lot of positions that you actually run elections for. You're not appointed. So we have a lot more opportunities to win and get Greens in office. In New York State, I believe we have about several mayors. It's like, I think, across the whole state, probably about 8 or so elected officials, mostly mayors in upstate. And upstate, same thing, it's kind of like California. People are more aware of their politics, of what actually affects them, and they get more engaged. In the city, a lot of people, as informative as the city is, we have all these big major news outlets and internet technology companies, it seems like people just don't know about the options that they have available.
Sometimes, unfortunately, more people know the names of reality TV show characters than they do of our political figures in this country. But that's for another day. We're working to change that, right?
Exactly.
No bashing. We're just going to make everyone aware as much as we can.
Yeah, I'm
nothing wrong with a little entertainment, don't get me wrong, but let's also know what's happening in our communities when we can. So,
exactly.
and so speaking of the Green Party, of course, environmentalism is very important to our country, to our world.
Right.
What aspects of the Green Party are important to you as it relates to this public advocate position for New York City?
Great. Well, basically the Green Party really, right now we say we have 4 pillars that represent the Green Party. So one is grassroots democracy. So for example, we just had a very costly runoff election with 2 candidates that are running for public advocate, which I was opposing because one of the candidates is already on another party line as a working families candidate. So I was saying, and I actually sent in releases and statements, this person could actually save the city $13 million by saying, you know what, I'm already in the election in November. you don't have to have this runoff election. Save the city $13 million, and I'll just continue running, and you can vote for me in November. And of course, they don't want to do that because the only thing they want to do is just win.
Well, that is, to be fair, that's the goal of every politician. Anyone running for an office does want to win. So,
exactly.
But so the pillar that you're talking about is actually electoral reform in some sense.
Exactly.
Yeah. What is that process that you're trying to get implemented?
Yeah. So one of the things for electoral reform would be to create instant runoff voting. That's what people call it IRV. That's a way where you actually have several candidates on the ballot. And if there's some candidates, because a lot of people want to vote for a winner. You know, that's like you just mentioned, everybody wants to win. But a lot of people feel guilty about voting for the winner, knowing that the candidate that they really wanted to vote for, you know, they don't have a choice for. So now what you can do with instant runoff voting, you have your list of candidates, and you can actually put preferentially if you want this to be your first choice, your second choice, or your third choice. So for my example, you'd say, I want James to be my first choice because
hypothetically,
he's...
Hypothetically, et cetera, sure.
Right.
So you can list in order of preference. Candidate one, this is, I want 1, 2, 3, 4 in this order. Okay, well, what's one of the other pillars? We're want to get to a few more of these before we run out of time.
Sure. Oh, yeah, I know. It's a lot to go through.
I know, it's a lot to discuss.
Well, you know, of course, I'll just run through all four real quick, and I'll give you a sense. So one is grassroots democracy. Next one is ecological wisdom. So we know there's a lot of issues with our environment. A lot of people are dying from diseases caused by just bad practices from, you know, manufacturing and waste transfer stations and all this kind of stuff. Asthma rates are really high. So we're very concerned with our environment and the best things we could do to make a healthy society for everybody. The other issue, of course, is nonviolence. Nonviolence starts at home. It starts from, you know, parents abusing their children, spousal abuse, global violence, gang violence on the streets, any kind of violence that falls under our pillar. And social and economic justice. You know, right now we had this big Occupy Wall Street movement that really made a big splash 2 years ago. It's still going on, but a lot of people don't know about it. And that address a lot of issues that come under social and economic justice, where you feel like 1% of the people actually have most of the wealth, and the other 99% are sort of struggling, trying to make ends meet with like 3 or 4 jobs and still not able to make it. And they have to make really tough decisions. Like you said, you know, either I'm going to buy... You have
to choose, but sometimes between either a prescription or lunch. I hate to say for the elderly sometimes are put in that situation, but that's, you know, that unfortunately is a historical problem. It isn't anything new.
And those are all things that the Greens try to look at. We try to look at our clean green environment and you know, financial system to sort of solve a lot of those things.
Okay. Well, what are some of the most, we've talked about those needs. What are the communities that you would represent as public advocate?
Great. Well, you know, as public advocate, it's for all 5 boroughs of the city. So I look at myself as I would represent all communities. I mean, of course, the communities that need the most help are the ones that are really stricken with poverty. I mean, we had, you know, the hurricane last year, and there's still a lot of people in the rebuilding process. You know, and the city has, like, funds available to help people, but at the same time, the people that need the help aren't aware of it. And that's an issue for me. That's an issue that I feel like the current public advocate should be letting everybody know. We know that you've been devastated. I just want everybody to know, yeah, you're probably sick of hearing me say this, but there's funds available for you.
So really putting connecting the dots so people know where to get the help.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Well, why is it, there's so many issues we've talked about, and it's important to address these issues now. Why is it so important that New York City residents such as yourself, you know, speak up about these issues? Because we can get very apathetic and very discouraged if we keep seeing the same things not being fixed.
Right. Well, you know, this is very basic. I mean, we've lost our sense of community, I feel. I feel that everybody plays a very important role in how the next person struggles or succeeds. I feel that if people just sit back and just watch things happen and don't really take action, then it really doesn't help anything. So it's just like if you see someone getting beat up on the corner and you don't like yell for help or call for somebody.
Or if you take video of it and post it online, as we just saw in the news recently.
Exactly. You know, that people just need to get more engaged. And, you know, the level of engagement doesn't have to be as radical as me, as like going out on marches every weekend and, you know, pretty much not having a social life in certain situations because we're protesting this, protesting, you know, unfair treatments for these people, protesting not enough affordable housing or not enough jobs or whatever the issue is. I mean, that's pretty much my wife and I and our son, our 8-year-old, we're all out on picket lines and marches all the time doing that. But I'm just saying for everybody to at least to do a little extra from what you're doing now, like spend 1 hour a week to do something that would probably better your community, whether it's helping cleaning up in your neighborhood or, you know, just reading a different news source to try to get a different point of view on a certain situation that really is important to you.
So everyone can do something.
Exactly.
You know, and you mentioned you're sacrificing a lot. Getting into the political game is not an easy decision. So why did you do this in these next, you know, couple of minutes that we have left? What motivated you to get into politics to begin with?
Well, my motivation was really on a personal level. When I was 23 years old, both of my parents had passed away. Yeah, I came home and found my mother dead, and then 4 months later, my father had died in a hospital of cancer. And then while doing everything I needed to do to become executive of the state, we found adoption papers for a male gamble. And so I'm asking the clerk, what's a male gamble? And so he explained to me, if your parents didn't have any other boys, then that's you. So, yeah. So I was like, wow, this is pretty intense. So I called my sister, she's 10 years older, and I said, was I adopted? Of course not. And so she explained to me on the phone, oh, I always knew your name was Victor. Just like as plain as day. So people were hiding from me that I was adopted for 23 years.
Wow.
And so now, you know, I've gone through the situation of losing both my parents, finding out I'm adopted, and then now I need to prove that I am this person. So long story short, I couldn't get my original birth certificate. I couldn't get any information about who my natural mother was. I couldn't get it. And these
so those papers were closed to you.
They're closed to me, and they're closed to millions of other people around the country and around the world. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to do this was, luckily, by whatever grace, I was able to find my natural mother this year. And she told me that every day, I prayed every day that I would see you before I died. And that was like my main motivation. That was the thing that I said, this is it. Nobody else should have to go through this level of pain. And so that was my motivation. So this is like my #1 issue. And of course, the other green values I spoke about before are my issues, but this is one thing. I know millions of people, well, I don't know personally millions of people, but there are millions of people that are going through this. Mothers trying to find their children and let them know that they love them. They gave them up because of really, you know, tough situations. Yeah, and it wasn't because they didn't love them. It's because they loved them so much that they gave them up. And
James, it's an incredible story, and how wonderful that you did get reunited with your birth mother.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful, it's a great motivation for you to try to make a difference in the world, and especially for your own son and for your own family. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, when we encourage everyone else to go ahead and make your mark in the world, you can do something, even if it's just one Saturday a month, you can contribute to the betterment of your community. And as a matter of fact, we hope that you will exercise your civic responsibility and privilege and go out and vote on November 5th for the candidates that best represent your convictions. Thanks so much for watching Joy in Our Town. I'm Vijoya Chappelear.
This program has been sponsored by the Trinity Broadcasting Network and is made possible by your telethon dollars. Your continual support can keep Joy in Our Town coming to your home every week. Write to Joy in Our Town, Post Office Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711.